Hello everyone, and welcome to this I Am Ashish to I Am book launch event. And it is also, we want to make an introduction to the NDP Foundation that is promoting this book and the message of the non-dualism. So we will be starting in about a couple minutes, but I think you'll feel free to go back and pick water. Some handouts are here that talks a little bit about the book and what the message is, what the NDP Foundation does. So I think it will be kind of a useful introduction before we get started. So I will ask Rahul if you can actually hand out these brochures to everyone here, and then I think we'll get started. Please, please come in, and then I think we'll start in just in 2 minutes. We are waiting for a couple more people to come, and then we'll get started. I know some of you actually have to go to some other events as well, so we'll be very respectful of your time, and we'll try to do it in the time that we have suggested in order to. So thanks. We'll start in a couple minutes.
So you can go and give this one copy to each one of them. Okay? And if they have it, that's okay. Just go start from here. Yep.
Okay, so I think we will start now. So once again, thank you for taking the time on a Saturday afternoon with so many other events going, and I think so very, very appreciative of you all coming here. What we plan to do is, first of all, I think to introduce to you Sri Ashish, and that who has been the inspiration for writing this book. And he will talk about his own journey from a business person to becoming transformed into more like a spiritual master in the arena of non-dualism. And we'll talk a little bit more about it, what it is, what it means, and all of that. Before we talk in terms of the book, I just wanted to relate the story how the book came about, so that you can see, and some of you who are aspiring authors, I think they can also kind of see what the story has been for me. Many of you know, we are all friends and family here. I'm an entrepreneur. I run a healthcare startup in the health IT. Primarily, we do remote patient monitoring and telehealth services. We provide to the hospitals, physician practices, home health services, and others. And when you are a startup in the US, I think the trend has been, and if you bring something new, bring something pioneering, something that did not exist before, you're not opening another restaurant, you're not opening another retail, you're doing something pioneering. And the adoption takes a little while for people to switch from the existing systems to the new systems. you need to kind of make the case in front of the end users. And you need quite a bit of money to actually do that. So I got introduced to Sri Ashish through a venture capital fund. So at the time, he was an advisor to a very large VC firm, and he was advising the VC firm, how to invest in smart new companies, startup companies, what to look for, and all of that. Because he has so much experience in running several businesses before he started his path. So I got introduced to him to sort of like to talk to and see if he could help us raise the capital, or his fund would actually invest in our company. So that's how I got to be here. So I made a presentation like any other entrepreneur will do to Sri Ashish. We were on a Zoom call, and I spoke and I presented, IntelliEdge to him. So about 30 minutes down the road, he said, "I got it, what you're trying to tell me. I understand it, all of that. And I think, we will see what the next steps are with you." Then after those 30 minutes, basically what happened was he said, I actually asked him, "So, Sri Ashish, what do you do, other than advising to the VC firms?" And he basically said that I am an advisor, but most of my day goes into more spiritual practice and following Maharshi Ramana from close to a place in Chennai. Then I asked him, okay, that's very interesting, because I have interest in spiritualism when I was in high school. And I was the follower of Swami Vivekananda for a long time. And I have read all his books. I read Bhagavad Gita, and I kind of know I have a natural bent towards that. So then I think the conversation completely moved from the business aspects to more like personal and the spiritual aspect. Then what happened, he said, and I told him that I grew up in Kolkata, and he said he grew up in Kolkata. And he went to Lamartine School, and I think my younger brother, he went to a little close to that. So I knew about that. So the whole conversation actually changed from that point on. So for about 45 minutes, 30 minutes we talked about business, 15 minutes with that. Then he said, let's go to my clubhouse. So he lives in Hamilton, New Jersey. We went there. So we sat down, and it took us like 2.5 hours just to kind of understand what he was doing. And I had lots and lots of questions. And he answered those questions, and that questions really kind of helped me understand some of the things that I was not able to understand before. And I got introduced to this Advaita, a non-dualism, for the first time, although Vivekananda talks about that, that the whole Ramakrishna vision is basically, but the way he explained to me was really kind of, hit very, very deep into my consciousness, say, I want to sort of like learn more. So that's how I think it all got started. And then I said, no, you have so much information, so much learning you have in the last 7, 8 years. Why don't you write a book about it? And he said, yes, I think I'm interested in writing a book about it, but I'm not the person who can actually write this book. And many other people have told me about it. Well, people have their own times, their own kind of inclinations. I went back in the plane, whatever he has kind of talked about, I wrote about 10, 12 points that I really felt that was really interesting for me to kind of satisfy my questions. So when I got home in Naperville, I wrote to him that it was a great meeting. Let's talk about business meeting, whenever the next steps are. But I would also be interested in if you can actually help me answer these questions. Then I think he asked me, would you be interested in kind of knowing more about non-dualism? And I said, yeah, I would be very, very interested in that. And then I think I sort of like got into it. He gave me some books to read. I read those books. More questions came to mind. I will have more conversations. So over the last 2 years, he and I have been meeting 1.5 hours every Sunday. And those conversations got translated into a book. So we actually have covered many things, and I would really hope that I think you can You can get a book. It will resonate with many things that we do in the world and that we need to do spiritually. How the two things come together, that's kind of now, take another 5-6 minutes, and I will have Sri Ashish talk about his journey and what he has learned and what his message is in terms of spreading the word about Advaita. So if you look at the name, so I'm going to talk about three things basically, right? Our worldly life that we all live. This is Anil, this is Fahim, this is Sri Ashish. We know each other, we have our own businesses, work, practices, relationships, everything. That's the word, it's the phenomenal word, right? You will contrast that with something called Advaita, where the whole idea is this is just a Maya, this is just an illusion. It does not actually exist. You, Fahim, Purush, we don't exist. It is like a dream. So when you are dreaming, everything is so real to you. You are on the cliff, you are falling on the cliff, from the cliff, you have a snake bite, you're fighting with others, you get scared. All those things are so real, you cannot even believe that it's not real. But as soon as you wake up, it was a dream, nothing truly existed. So this whole idea, this is the key point. This was initially expounded by Sri Shankaracharya almost 1200 years ago. And then many other people actually have taken that message and tried to spread it out. It's a very interesting concept that we, as we see ourselves, actually do not exist. It's a very dramatic idea to think about, but this has been around for some time, and I will give you some homework to think about, right? If I say, this is my body, this is my mind, this is the microphone, then obviously, in effect, consider my mind, my body, right? That means I am different than my body because I'm saying this is my body. So there's a subject, and there's an object. Object is the body, and I am the subject. This is the chair, and this is Anil sitting on the chair. Anil sitting on the chair is also an object, the chair is the object. The homework is this. Start to think about, who am I? When you're sitting alone, when you have no distractions, just ask this one question. Who am I? Who is this Anil? Who is this Fahim? And I bet you, if you think deeply, you will not find an answer. You will not find an answer to it because you do not exist. It seems so far out there. But I'm telling you, you start to do this 10 minutes, 15 minutes, you will not find an answer to the question, who am I? And the question that you will find, who am I, is basically will lead to your just an awareness. It's nothing else, you're just aware of who we are, but there is no form, there's no name, there's no object, nothing actually exists. All there is what we call in Veda and Hinduism, Sat Chit Anand. Sat, existence, consciousness, and bliss. That is our original state. It's hard to believe, but this book, if you actually read one chapter a week, follow it, because we have tried to bring all kinds of information from previous knowledge and try to put this into the present context in which we live, in this world that we live, in the 21st century. The problems that we have, the stresses that we have, the anxieties that we have, the fear that we have. If you are able to discover who you truly are, all these things will go away. That's the value. That is the message that I think Sri Ashish wants to convey to the rest of the world, and we have tried to put that message into the world. So, homework is, Whenever you are quiet on your own, ask the question, who am I? You will not find an answer to that question because it does not exist. And if you do not exist, everything else that you're related to does not exist. Because that is the connection between you and the other, right? And if you do not exist, anything that is related to you, this hall, this room, this chair, these people, they don't exist. What exists is just the consciousness. We are just aware. And that's why in the modern world, a lot of people talk about being in the present moment. The present moment has just that consciousness. Just being. Not Anil, not Purush, not Fahim, not Naperable, nothing. And that's a very, very dramatic concept to grasp. But again, I would suggest that I think if you do that, look at the book. And we have talked about happiness. We have talked about reconciliation between the worldliness that we live in and the spiritualism we have. And we will have a question answer session at the end. We'll talk more about it. But I will leave you with 3 or 4 main concepts for a happy, peaceful, fearless life to live. We all will have challenges. Gautama Buddha 2,500 years ago saw that there is a misery, there is a suffering, there is a death, there is an old age, there is sickness. Nothing has changed from those times. Still the same thing that we all go through. We grow as a small child, adolescent, adult, work, middle life, all of that. Keep changing. What is not changing, the only truth that does not change is this consciousness. There is no beginning to it, there is no end to it. There is no beginning, there is no end. It's infinite. Is the universal consciousness. There is no division of me, you, others. It's one single consciousness. So as I said, 3 things I will leave you with. One is, look inside, not outside. If you look outside, you'll get entangled. You'll get engaged in so many things and all kinds of worries, stress, problems. Look inside. That's where the real you are. Consciousness. It will just get you from a high level of stress, problems, issues, to a very calm, peaceful. You continue to work. That will not change. Gun you have to do. That will not change. Money you got to make. Health you got to keep. Nothing will change. What will change is how you react to this anxiety, fear, hate, envy. All those things will sort of like that. So that's point number 1. Look inside. Number 2, I would say, again, ask the question, who am I? Try it. Read the book, try it. Maharishi Ramana called it self-inquiry. And he said if you do the self-inquiry, you will realize the self you already are. You are that Satchit Anand. You already are Satchit, then nothing can be achieved. But you will discover it because it already exists. That's number 2. And number 3, I would suggest is that self-realization is kind of not an intellectual search. It is what you experience. And that experience actually starts from silence. And that's what I would suggest. So I will not take much time here, but I would like to kind of introduce Sri Ashish. He will go through his journey so you will see how a successful business person and the circumstances in his life kind of transform his whole perspective on life and spiritualism. So Sri Ashish, please.
That was really deep. Wonderful. Once again, namaskar everybody. Thank you for taking the time to come today and listen to us. Quickly, I think we are short on time. I actually like to do these sections. I actually do satsangs as well, but I prefer that people ask more questions. Is that better?
No, I think microphone.
Okay, microphone is better. All right.
Yeah.
So I like to keep these short. Like in my satsangs, I prefer people ask lots of questions. I like them other than doing the pravachan and preaching. I think you get that enough in your lives. Preaching you know, something or the other is happening. But quickly, how I started this journey. So I was born and raised in Calcutta, or Kolkata now. One of the things, the story is that when I was born, it was actually Bengal one, that people know. So it was very difficult to find a doctor to give birth to me. So when we found the doctor, my mother says that, tell me that, you know, they used to say that an Akshar is born, this is changing. So that the revolutionary is born. I don't think they realized that this is the kind of revolution that was happening. Still not.
Can you read the volume again?
Again? I'm sorry. A little bit louder, this is better?
Nice.
Alright. I actually like to keep it low, but I guess today I'll have to be loud.
Now, being loud, it will go inside.
Okay, fair enough. So, came here, did my graduation in Kolkata. The life was very privileged. We had a very privileged life. Our father used to do very well. And just as a normal child, you know, fun and games all through. Came for my undergraduate to the University of Rochester. Actually, by academics, I'm a chip designer, VLSI, and I never actually did any work in the United States because for my graduation, my father came over and basically emotionally blackmailed me to go back home. So the thing was that he used to run a big company called Bellis India, which was manufacturing steam turbines. And what he was saying is, look, I've created this factory for you, which to make steam components. So why don't you come back? There's nobody. My brother had said, look, I'll never go back to India. I'm done. My sister was married, and so I said, okay, I'll go give it a try. And I don't know if any of you know Gurgaon at that time. This was in '97. It was really a town. There was nothing there, absolutely nothing. So here it was a U.S. return chip designer. He took me up in the morning. He said, look, Ashish, it's 47 degrees centigrade, no water, no power. He had imported 3 CNC machines and said, look, this is where you start. So the first 6 months of my career, it was every day. There was a tussle at home. There was constant fighting with my father. He ruined my life, done this. And then my mother said, look, there are 3 people here in the house. You got to do something. Constantly, you guys are at loggerheads. So it came to, my father was a very practical man. So he said, look, Ashish, I'm sorry this has happened now. If you want to now, give it another 6 months. If you don't like it, go do what you want to do. So when, I said, okay, this is fair enough. I spent another 6 months. And lo and behold, I actually decided to stay for another 20 years after that. So I used to actually, during those time, I built a lot of businesses. I basically acquired a lot of businesses. I made a lot of money. I lost a lot of money. But it was just like any normal person. Wanted to have a family, wanted to make wealth, wanted to have fame, wanted to conquer the world, was ambitious, was obnoxious, and the same old. So as this was going on, as I was traveling, in 2008, I got a call from my father one day and he said, look, Ashish, you need to come home. My mother was not well. And I did not realize. So when I went back, I found out that my mother had been misdiagnosed. And they were treating her for tuberculosis and they completely missed the cancer. So from 2008 till 2015, those next 7 years, there was one tragedy after another. So first I lost my mother. Then the businesses, my father was not grieving. I started spending a lot of time in India with him. My family was all here. I had 2 small kids. And, then we, filed bankruptcy. The business went down. Then my father got sick. He got diagnosed with cancer. And then eventually, once I told him, I said, look, I'm everywhere, but I'm nowhere. And I'm like a vagabond. I'm neither here, neither there. My family's suffering. You're not doing well. So I said, look, why don't you wrap up everything and move with me back to the United States? So after a lot of convincing, he said, okay, I'll come with you. So we wrapped up everything in India in 2015. Middle of 2015, we came here. And 2 months later, my wife just, of 18 years, she decided to just walk out the door. Not a word, nothing. So that really hit me very hard. Because till then, the idea of having a family was my center. I truly believed that I could go to war. You could send me to war. I could fight with anybody with the knowledge that when I came home, my family would be there. Now suddenly my center was gone. So if this is not my center, then what is? And I searched for 6 months. I couldn't find any answers. I did, therapy. I cried a lot. I did, transcendental meditation. I started that. And until then, I did not believe in spirituality or did not believe in meditation. I was not religious. I believed that there was God, and if you did good, God will, reward you. If you did bad, God will punish you. But beyond then, that was the extent of my knowledge about spiritualism. So 6 months into this, in December of 2015, I said, Lord, you got me. I have no answers. You really trumped me. I don't know where to go from here. I have no direction. I have no family. I lost everything. Like everything was gone. My father and I had built, that was gone. Family was gone. Everything was gone. So I woke up the next morning with this thing imprinted on my mind called SRF. And I had no idea what that meant. And I couldn't shake it off. It was imprinted. Somebody came in the night and actually stamped it on my forehead. So I said, I can't shake this off. Let me find out what this is. So I did a Google search. And I came to a site called Self-Realization Fellowship. And from there, I found out Paramahansa Yogananda. So he was actually my first guru. Now, Paramahansa Yogananda was very well known for something called a book called The Autobiography of Yogi. If you guys haven't read it, that's the first book I usually tell people who are starting their spiritual journeys to read that book. So I did, I looked at it and something resonated, so I ordered it. And I was just telling some people here earlier that I'm not an avid reader. If you tell me to go watch a movie or read a book, I said, let's go watch a movie. I don't want to read a book. So, but I couldn't put this book down. So I read this book in 7 days. And since then, for the next 3.5 years, I read everything that you could think of on self-realization, nirvana, enlightenment. I read the Bhagavad Gita, I read the Bible, I read the Quran. I just read it all. I couldn't get enough of it. And this is the only thing I could do. I could not focus on work. I could not focus on business. But these things came to me as if they were fiction. I could read the sitting of Bhagavad Gita in one sitting. Like it was like something within me could understand what the actual meanings of these books were. So now, Paramahansa Yogananda had also, so he had gone in 1952, Paramahansa Yogananda passed away. And after Paramahansa Yogananda, there was no physical guru. So the lineage had stopped. So what he had said is that his teachings would become the Guru Shishya. So you could actually order home lessons. So he said, look, not everybody in today's day and age would be able to get to the ashram. So here I'm setting out these home lessons. You can order them. And these home lessons were actually created for you to kind of condition your body and mind to start what we call Kriya Yoga, right? Which is the pranayama. So they basically had the Dhyan Yoga lineage. They taught that. So I did this, I got this. And for me again, starting point, had never done meditation, could not sit in silence for even 5 minutes. Forget about, today I can do for days, but I couldn't sit in silence for even 5 minutes. So it took me about 1.5 years, 2 years to basically get myself conditioned. And then I got inducted in Kriya Yoga. Now Kriya Yoga is a form of pranayama. Basically, it takes 30 seconds for one Kriya to go up and down your spinal, your astral-spinal chakra, or your spinal cord. So basically clean up your chakras. So I did that, and when they started, they send you for about 14 minutes, actually 7 minutes, 14 Kriya Yogas. So Paramahansa Yogananda had said that, look, if you do this Kriya for about 8 hours a day, it will take you 3.5 years to attain Nirvana, or to experience Nirvana. And today's day and age, nobody's sitting for 8 hours a day just doing Kriya. It's not possible the way you have to do it. So I said, this is not on. So I said, look, Lord, you've given me the destination. You've given me a way, but this is not moving fast enough. I can't, who's going to wait for another couple of lifetimes to get to this? So I was looking at a few quotes in November of 2019, and I came to the first quote of Ramana Maharshi. Now, Ramana was basically another sage who had attained what we call sadhu mukti, basically mukti instantly. So he was 16, and one fine day, he felt the fear of death, and that basically overtook him. And within 30 minutes, he felt another form of existence, which is what Anil was talking about, just an awareness. And that existence, that form of existence never went away from there on. So he then, after that, took about 4 years of silence and then started teaching in Tiruvannamalai. And then for 50 years he taught. But what he taught, what we know, is Gyan Yoga, which is self-inquiry, as Anil was saying. And his Gyan Yoga was about self-inquiry. He basically said to ask the question, who am I? And the trick here is not to get lost in the questions, because the questioner's job is to ask the question. As long as the questioner is alive, or believed to be alive, his job is to ask the question. Just the way this imaginary or illusionary, what we call mind's job is to keep you entangled. As long as the mind remains, or you believe, or you keep making it believe that the mind exists, it will keep you entangled. So the mind is doing a wonderful job. That's what its profile is. So as it's doing excellent. But the question here is to question the questioner. And if you keep questioning the questioner, eventually you can't find an answer. And then as you keep going inward, it basically dissolves into its source. That means when I started doing this, I couldn't find this I. And I constantly, with every thought, every emotion, every event, I kept asking this question. And I could not find the answer. And when I could not find the answer, I said, then where is this coming from? What is going on? If there is no I, then what is creating all this? Where is this coming from? And eventually in 2021, what I experienced was Shunya, which is the base of existence, where I was aware of my existence, but nothing else. There are no thoughts, there is no senses, there is complete peace. Peace of I can't explain to you, I can't define it, because there is no definition to it. The only way for you to know it is to experience it. But it is beyond anything that you have ever experienced or you will ever experience. So there was nothing else but the awareness of existence, which is what is known in our scriptures as Satchitananda, ever existent, ever conscious, ever new bliss, which is nothing but being, awareness, bliss. And bliss has been taken as an explanation to the closest. If you can imagine that there is no thought, and you can imagine what no thought kind of peace it would bring, where there is no disturbance, that closest would be known as bliss. So once I had that experience, the first experience had happened in 2020 when I visited Ramana's ashram, but I did not have an understanding of what that meant. It was very brief, it happened for a few seconds, it was gone. But it left such an impact that it was extremely joyous. I couldn't, that whole day, couple of days after that, it was just joy. I was just full of joy. And then I had the other one in 2021 where it lasted longer. And this time it lasted for a very long time. And that, since then, has remained with me. Now there is this energy that flows through me 24/7. Life is extremely joyous, come what may. The outside circumstances have not changed. The good, the bad, and the ugly keep happening, but it does not have any effect. Because what this brings, this consciousness of who you are, which is what I keep telling people, is when you understand and experience it, it starts bringing non-attachment. And it starts bringing non-attachment to a point where first it starts with one thing or the second and the third. But once your individuality is dissolved, everything that your individuality or that you believe that your individuality is actually built for itself is also dissolved. So there is absolutely nothing to be attached to. So what remains is your original state of being, which is already self-realized. So I tell people, self-realization in the end is to realize that there is actually nothing to realize. You already are that you're seeking to become. You've just forgotten who you are. So living consciously is also living with this awareness. And you'll start, I know, as events happen, people keep going back and forth. But the more and more you do this, the more and more the non-attachment kicks in. You'll start seeing that you'll stop becoming more and more entangled into the events. Nobody says don't be involved in your life. Be fully immersed and involved in your life. Just don't be attached to it, or don't, get entangled in it. So this is how the experiences happen. And then I met Anil, 2021. As Anil said, we decided to write this book. He said, look, I've got so many questions. You've answered all my questions with simplicity. Why don't you write a book? So my neighbors, used to tell me that a lot of people used to come. And then we decided to write a book. So ever since then, and now my life is just this. This is about just trying to spread this message and awareness to as many people. As I tell people, I'll talk about this to people who don't want to listen. I'll talk about this to people who may want to listen, and I'll talk about this to people who want to listen. So that's my journey. That's my story. I'm here. I love to have question and answer sessions. As I said, we have monthly satsangs that we're planning. Now we're planning to go to India to have a book tour. We're visiting in November. Newsletters coming out. Websites up. We have social media platforms. We're writing a blog now. We're trying to get this message out to as many people as possible. And hopefully some will benefit from them. Some will say that, look at this guy, he's mad, and that's fine too. Just part of it. Anything else?
I think this is good. I would suggest that let's actually have some Q&A, and I think some of us here actually are very deeply involved in spiritualism and may have some questions. So yeah, please go ahead.
First of all, I want to make a quick comment. I like both of you as speakers. You didn't give any homework. You gave homework, but you give the answers also.
Discover it. I think I gave the answer. It's an open book question, right? You can take the book with you, but experience it. You will see what I'm saying here, what Sri Ashish is saying. But thank you.
I got a question for you. I got two questions. In your journey, did you seek out yogis in India?
No.
Okay. And you don't have to, second question, you don't have to answer if you don't want to. Did you try to patch up with your ex-spouse?
Yeah, so what happens is with this comes, so there are 4 marks of yoga, right? We have Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, Jnana Yoga, and Bhakti Yoga. And at the end, everything eventually ends up at Bhakti Yoga, which is nothing but to know one's true self. And with that comes complete unconditional surrender. So with unconditional surrender also comes what we call unconditional love. So what has happened with this change is that the anger and the frustration that I had going through the divorce process, when I did not have this understanding, or the level of understanding, that has all changed. So today the relationship is wonderful with my ex-wife. It's unconditional love. I look at her like I look at you. I love you as much as I love my kids. There is no difference because I see everybody as one. I don't differentiate. The individuality which differentiates has actually kind of dissolved.
I got one more question, if you don't mind. Why you didn't seek out some yogis in India?
So when I reached Ramanna's ashram, I I actually found there were no more questions, because where I was struggling with Paramahansa Yogananda, Ramanna's self-inquiry actually answered, because Ramanna taught self-inquiry and surrender. There was a mixture of both. So once those questions were actually answered, I did not have any further questions or seek any yoga, because I didn't need any more answers.
Sri, do you have a question?
Yeah. It's peaceful to meet you. I spend time on consciousness and I question people that
Please keep your mic close.
you don't know who you are, but the rest of the things are easy to debate on and question. Because knowing self is very hard. We don't know who we are for many examples. And I understood that, a mom and dad, when they contribute egg and sperm, the fertilized thing, as it receives the nutrients, it develops the body. And in that, at some point, one starts feeling self as it develops for 9 months. So I understood that when I say body, it's not something me, because now it's self, I say. Because the food and nutrients that went into this is the body in which I am living. I recognize it. And also I recognize that the brain is a physical thing, just like a hand. And the context in which the brain lived and received the information from the outside world, that gave it the mind. Means the way I am thinking is all but the information that the brain received from the external world, and so mind is also not me, I recognize that. So this raw awareness that you are talking, I don't know if you talked, I understood what is raw awareness without meditation or keeping in silence, just by observation of my own suffering or joy or emotions that I am going through. I understood what is raw awareness, because when I went into a cave, when they turned off the light, I couldn't see the things, or if it is absolute silence, we don't see anything or hear anything, feel anything. But we are there. And what is that when I try to understand, when people talk of raw awareness, I'm able to again correlate to that. So the question is, I found that there is a threshold for people to raise above to gain this realization itself. Like your wife walking out of your life may be a starting point which gave you the sufficient energy to cross that threshold to reach the self-realization. And we see billions of people living every day a life that is given to them, and they carry with the life that is there with them, like including myself, I am carrying that. So the question itself is the raw awareness when it is getting attached into your body and mind, it has these experiences, like I am experiencing now, this room, all of us, but this Advaita thing is still confusing me, because see, there is a subjective me and objective all of this world. From the observation, even when my grandfather passed away, my father passed away, when I passed away, still this illusion is going to be there. or not is the question. Again, that as a subject only when I exist, there is a meaning for that illusion. I don't know, I'm taking too long in this question. So what I am saying is, I'm able to understand body and mind are not me. There is something raw which is just entering into this, I understood that. But I am not able to raise above that. What is the purpose of all this? Why I am experiencing it? This is all this reasoning is again human experience.
Correct.
So for the consciousness, whether it is gods or yogi, biography, all this is thinking in terms of human mind.
Correct.
So is there something, what is the purpose of consciousness? Is there
So ask the question, who is asking this question? What is the purpose? Because reality is not.
So it's maybe you can help.
Reality is not asking this question. The starting point, the base of existence, is not asking anything. It's permanent, it's still, it's silent, and it's thoughtful.
But talking with myself, I am living in this experience right now.
So the question to ask, when you ask what is the purpose of this, it's not to really delve on the answer of that question. It's to question the question. Because at one point, no questions will come, none of this will come. Right? And that is basically the only purpose, which is what I was telling Anil this morning. The only purpose to life is to know what's true nature. Because once you realize this, then whatever is, enjoy it. It's for entertainment purpose only.
Someone is suffering with cancer. I know that I heard even Ramakrishna Ji had cancer and he had with it being in realized state. Yeah, maybe, I do not know. I mean, does suffering definitely causes people to go on the path of this.
I'll give you an explanation. So both my parents died of cancer. When my mother died, and I did not have this understanding, it hit me deeply. My suffering was beyond measure, and I went down, I got very angry. Because she was 64. There was no reason for her to die. Right? I took it out, I asked all of these questions. And I went down to very dark places. Because now I was angry with it. Right? But when my father died from cancer, because now I was in this understanding, I just looked at it as an event. It's just an event. It's like on the movie. When you go watch a movie, right? There is comedy, there is drama, there is killing, there is cancer. What happens? When there's comedy, you laugh. Because at that moment, you identified with the movie. Right? But in reality, there is nothing going on.
One last question. With this awareness, if you commit a sin, how your brain awareness handles it?
So this is when we come to what he always talks about is nishkam karma. If you believe that that sin is yours, then you now are struggling with the outcome of what you've done. But the sin is also not yours. It's again a movie. Now, it's very difficult to comprehend and live with it because what people say is, look, I'll keep all the good, but Lord, I'll give you all the bad. Right? Surrendering means you can do whatever you want to do. With this understanding, I know a lot of people will have a difficulty with agreeing with this. But this is what this means. That do not be attached to the event or to the action or to the outcome of the action. You can't say I'll be attached to the action, I've committed sin, but now I don't want to be attached to the outcome of that. It has to do both.
Yeah, I think I'll just add one point here. So long the mind is thinking, you are not in that consciousness state. Because mind is arguing, it's logic, it's all kinds of things coming. Transcending the mind is the challenge. Because mind will also keep asking these questions. You have to go beyond. You actually said very correctly. You are not your body.
You are not your mind. If you're not your body, not your mind, then there is nothing, these thoughts that are coming to you is not you. So why you suffer? Can you bring your understanding to that level? If these thoughts, this body, this sin, all the great things that you have done, they're not you. That the ego has dissolved. And when that dissolves, that's where the understanding actually comes. Challenge is, it's very difficult to transcend the thoughts, go beyond that. And again, thanks to Maharishi Ramana, who said, give an easy method. One is what Sri Ashish is saying, surrender. Which is not easy thing, to, at least for me, to surrender everything. I'm actually making the hard work, I'm actually doing this, why I'm not getting there, all those things actually come in the way. But the other method that he taught, which was self-inquiry, ask who you are. And continuously ask that question, you will realize that all these things that are happening in front of you with your body, with your mind, it's not you. The examples of a movie, all the characters in the movie, we are sitting in the audience, watching the movie, we get upset when the villain actually creates bad things, and we laugh when the comedian does the right things, right? As soon as the movie ends, only the screen remains. The substrate, the underlying thing is that consciousness on which everything else appears. They just appear. They don't exist like our image in a mirror. It's not Anil in the mirror, it's just the image of Anil in the mirror. It's not Anil. Same thing, the dream. We think everything is so correct. Everything, you feel it. You have emotions. As soon as the dream ends, you're like, oh my God, nothing. So, from practical point of view, what is the value of all this? Why we should be even thinking about Advaita? The reason we should be thinking about Advaita is that all our stuff will be, I do not want to be happy for 3 hours or 2 hours. I want to be happy for after. I want to be in that state for after. It's a very ambitious goal, but that's what I want. That's what I'm actually doing all this. How I can do that? The only way I can do that is if I'm non-attached to it. The good thing comes, the bad thing comes. It doesn't affect my inner world. Inside, I want to be the same. It disturbs me, I'm not there. But certainly the approach and the ambition is there to see that nothing outside should suffer my inner peacefulness and inner happiness. And the self-inquiry piece actually gives you a method that you are not what you think you are. And once you get that, then I think things actually becomes easier from that. Yeah, question.
For me,
Yeah, you can go on your last question.
yeah, I've not read Yogananda's book except for first couple of chapters.
Okay.
What is the evidence of reincarnation?
So, reincarnation is true till you believe in your individuality.
Sorry?
Reincarnation or karma is true as long as you believe in your individuality.
Sorry, I'm not able to follow you.
So if the I or your individuality has no existence, then what is the existence of reincarnation or karma? What is it that is being born and reborn?
My question to you is, what is the evidence?
Well, that's the same thing I'm asking you is, you don't need the evidence, because if the I has no existence, then there's really no karma or no reincarnation happening.
So if we do not exist as Anil, there's no possibility of Anil reincarnating into some other life. Because Anil does not exist.
So let me rephrase the question.
Yeah, so I think yes, good. Yeah.
Let me rephrase it.
But I think I finish this question, then I think
Very quickly, I want to
yeah.
Is there a reincarnation?
Let someone else ask a question.
Just one question.
Let someone else ask a question.
You go to it. Yeah. Go ahead.
Is there a reincarnation? And if it is there, what is the evidence? And I will not ask any more questions.
right? I would say the reincarnation does not exist. And the reason I say it, only thing that actually exists is the consciousness. The body, the person, with all the physical elements, anything that has a form, that has a name, does not exist. It's the same thing, and the only way, the easiest way to think about that is a dream. You see a physical form, you see an emotion in the dream, but actually does it exist? It doesn't. So if it doesn't exist, there's no point. It can be reincarnated. Yeah, you go ahead.
No, I think so.
So I think we have that particular question. I think we are missing in front of it. The human being consists of multiple elements, right? It's a physical being is there. There is a mental being. There is a vital being. There is a soul as well. Right? The psychic being, the soul. It goes through cycles, and that's the cycle of Buddha we talked about. Buddha, any philosophy you pick up, there is a cycle. I mean, it goes through the evolution, and it realizes at a certain level. I mean, you can believe in transformation, or you can believe in nirvana. Right? That's a different thing. But I mean, that's a debatable. I don't want to debate on that topic, but that's how
Well,
I.
you may have to answer it because we have talked about this also. Let him kind of respond to that.
So, remember that your living is not outward to inward. It is from inward to outward. So, what the Shastra says is that the soul, where Paramatma and Atma is one and the same, there is no division. When you believe in your individuality, the mind creates these divisions. Right? Now, the soul gets engulfed in how is this, the world created is from thoughts, which is causal. Thoughts get projected out into what we call energy, which is called astral. And then that energy gets pushed out into what we call matter, which is the phenomenal world. But matter by its very essence is inert. Physics tells us, right? If there was no energy in it to drive it, then it would do nothing. So the question is, where is this thought coming from? And if you are saying that the Paramatma and the Atma is one and the same, then there is no individuality, there is no two. Right? So then whose reincarnation is happening? Because the body dies, matter is there. It will come for whatever, like you're wearing this clothes, once this gets torn, you will throw it and you'll wear a new pair of clothes. So if you believe, that's what I was saying. When I was saying that if you believe in individuality, then yes, there is a whole cosmic structure. There is then Shiva, there is Vishnu, there is Brahma, there is Indra, there is the whole shebang. Prarabdha karma, Purushakra karma, Sanchita karma, Agami karma. There is a whole, and that's why you have karma yoga. But all of this whole process of being in ignorance and finding freedom from it is all happening within the construct of the mind, which is illusion. It is not it. It has no substance. I could not find it. If you do, you please show it to me. I would not find this, what people talk about mind, what it is, collection of thoughts, collection. So, Ramanna had 3 teachings, he used to say. For the highest level of teaching, he used to call Ajata Vada. What was that? Doctrine of non-causality. Because there was no cause, hence there has been no effect. His experience and mine vouch for that. Now people said, "You don't understand this? What are you saying? What do you mean? We see the world, we see everything here." So then what we call Srishti Drishti Vada. What that means is that in the night, when the mind goes to sleep in deep sleep, you're not aware of your body. Without the awareness of the body, you're not aware of the world. If I would not come and tell you that you were actually alive in deep sleep, you're not aware of anything. Right? So when the mind goes to sleep, the world disappears. When the mind again in the morning comes up, the world appears. People say, "What do you mean? We don't understand this." Then he said, "Drishti Shrishti Vada." Then there
was God, and he said, let there be light. The first day God created this, the second day God created that. Now, in Shishti Drishtivada starts this whole process of karma and reincarnation. So, from a duality perspective, no arguments. We can sit down and we can have a full debate about it, because that is where the karma yoga comes from.
That's fine. But can we talk about the experience you had when you went to the first time when you
Went to Tiruvannamalai. So Tiruvannamalai,
Sri Ashish, also you can talk about the energy flow that you have experienced. Maybe.
yeah, and that will probably connect well. Also, we can have if people
So,
are,
yeah,
we can actually
coffee is there,
we can
so
sit
please.
together and we can have tea and coffee and we can talk about this. This is something I can talk for hours.
I think that eventually what matters is what you realize.
That's correct.
That's unless until we realize nothing.
That's correct.
We can read forever.
You can have an intellectual conversation. Yeah, you can have an intellectual conversation till kingdom come. And that's what I tell people, that now I don't have, I used to have intellectual arguments in the early stages. Now I don't. I say, tell me what you experience. If you experience, I'm very interested to know your experience. Otherwise, you can read, I can read, you are intellectual, I can be intellectual. We can both interpret differently. We can keep going on for hours on this. Right? So with Tiruvannamalai, when I went in 2020. And I had no idea that Ramanna actually existed till I found that quote. Now I had forgotten that Ramanna had been referred by Paramahansa Yogananda in Autobiography Yogi. If you read it, he had also gone and met him at some time. So when I looked at it, Ramanna's ashram is 165 kilometers from where my sister has been living for the last 25 years. She's married in Chennai, I had no idea. So I called her. I said, listen, I need to go there. She's like, are you gone mad? What are you doing? What is this all about? So anyways, I landed up in February 2020, just before the pandemic. And there is, I don't know if anybody has been to Tiruvannamalai?
For me.
So when you drive from Chennai, there is what Arunachala Hill. So the main center point of Tiruvannamalai is this big hill. And Ramanna basically said and felt that Arunachala Hill is the center of the universe. This is where he said Siva lived. Siva for him was the self, was the universal consciousness. So he never in his lifetime, for 50 years that he lived, first he started by living in a cave, then they brought him down, never went 2 kilometers away from the hill, ever, in those 50 years. Because he said this is where it all is. So this entire community or township has been built around this hill. The next one that came is the Arunachala temple, which is the form of Shiva in the form of Agni. So these are the two main things. So as you drive, this hill just pops up. Like it just shows up from nowhere. Because you're driving, you don't see anything and suddenly this hill. So as I saw the hill, at that time, my spine just went erect. And there was this energy flow that just flowed up and down. There was such an intense amount of energy that I cannot explain anything beyond that. So I spent 2 days in the ashram. Now I did the Girivalam, which is the 14-kilometer walk, and not knowing how tough it would be, I went barefoot. So by the time I was at probably 12 kilometers, my entire feet were gone. The skin had now peeled off my feet. So my cousin was there. My sister also went after all the nonsense she said. She still decided to go with me. And my cousin and I did not realize that it was March, one of the ships, the full moon day. So suddenly we started around 6 p.m. the walk. There were probably 50, 100 people. And suddenly by the time we were at Ramanna's thing, there were almost 100,000 people there. So we went inside. I said, now my skin is coming off. Nowhere to go. They said, now the ashram is closed at 9 o'clock. Please leave. So I told my cousin sister, I said, look, there is some bandage you can bring. And we said, how will we now get
back to the hotel. There is this 100,000 people walking now. They are in their own trance. Lo and behold, I don't know from where, auto rickshaw showed up. The moment I thought, how will I get to my hotel, an auto rickshaw showed up. I said, yeah, I have to go to this place. He said, I'll take you, don't worry. He said, you don't worry about money and all, we'll discuss this thing. I don't know how he got us. In 30 minutes from here, there, everywhere, he got us there. So the next day, I could not on the first trip go up because I couldn't go to Skandash, which is on the top of the hill. So my cousin went, I got myself back in, and I basically sat in the ashram and basically meditated on Ramana style. Now the interesting part is we went from there to Pondicherry because my cousin wanted to go to Aurobindo's ashram as well. So I don't know if this is a thing, but there is a current that flows through me 24/7 now. I am always broadcasting. Ramana used to say, a lot of people used to say, look, 6 months we are sitting here, we're getting nothing. He said, look, I am always broadcasting. If your antenna is not tuned, it's not my fault. I am the radio station. I am broadcasting. So I am always broadcasting now. If a lot of people tune in from all over the world, now they don't need it. They just think of me and they say that thoughts disappear. And whether that's true or not, I don't know. Right? They want peace. They meditate on me. They find. So this energy, if you touch, see if it does anything to you, it just flows. It's always flowing. So what this does also is it self-heals. So that entire skin was actually healed within the next morning I woke up. It was Aurobindo's thing was gone. It was as if there was nothing there. These are things I can't explain. But it happens. I've experienced it. I can self-heal. I don't get ill that much. I've had all 3 bouts of COVID. I've had them because I was traveling during this time. The first one was okay. Second one, I was really ill. Nobody, I was alone. And third one, I felt like a flu. But I heal very quickly. I don't get the common cold anymore. And life is extremely joyous. Let me tell you this. It is beyond joy. It's just one. Because every moment is lived for that moment. That was my first experience at Ramana.
Now become Ashish, I am
Yeah. Yeah.
I have a quick question.
Ji.
After realization, how do you choose the actions? By that I mean good and bad, or when you are acting in this.
Surrender. Surrender. Because it's unconditional surrender. I don't think about my action, neither the outcome of my action. It just happens.
Okay, like drinking alcohol.
Drink.
Choosing woman and
You can do whatever.
No, I'm asking you.
No, I'm saying because it is absolute freedom. See, you have to understand that if there is no individuality, everything is related to this I that you believe actually as existence. As long as Ashish, I believe and identify with Ashish. Now there is woman, there is alcohol. If I do something to the woman, I now think about what I have done. Have I done the right thing? Have I not done the right thing? But if Ashish is not there, then whatever you do. It's got nothing to do with it. You are now. So remember, in this realization, you don't do anything which is wrong. It doesn't.
Yeah, because then
It doesn't.
like that you are saying, but still you exist and you are dealing with the objective world as you wake up. So wake up into the mind, not in the realization. But you are still, your mind is touching you, no?
Yes, but you don't identify with it. At least for me.
I mean,
So let me try.
Such
So try this.
possible.
So try this. The only way to do this, as you were saying, is this intellectual conversation will not happen. So what happens to most people? So I created a threefold path. You read the book, it's there. I simplified because there's so much going on in the world. There's so much noise. There are 10,000 yogis and gurus now. You pick up YouTube, I get about 50 of them. I don't know how they get to me, but I've got somebody told me that look, every morning I wake up, my cousin sister told me, I get 7 of these Instagrams. Why don't you be the 8th one? So I'll wake up in the morning, I'll see these and I'll go on to my life. So I said, I'm not an espresso shot that you'll take in the morning and then go on with your life. Right? But what I've said is, most people understand this, want to, but they don't take the time to implement this. If you will not implement this in your life, this understanding, you will never experience it. And this is where the difference is. So I did not take anything at face value. If Paramahansa Yogananda said, do this is it, I said, okay, let me do it. Amarnath said, do this, I said, I'll do it. I tried and tested it. But I am here to guarantee you that if you do this, you will experience this.
I believe that, but again, even that experience, is that the ultimate is the question.
Doesn't matter. Get there. First, get to this experience. If there are still questions there, then come to me. Otherwise, we'll keep going in this intellectual thing. Agar wo hai, is it anything beyond? This is what my brother does with me. I stop because he is intellectual.
Maybe
आप पूछे.
Mr. Ramana, was he married or?
He was no, because he got it at 16.
So then again my question is, we live in the grass ashram. Our life is much tougher than whatever the yogi is going. Just say you were destined to do this after you got divorced. The day you got divorced, you are just single person and you don't know what you will be doing or whatever, what you are working for, because we work for our family, do this and do that.
तो मेरे 2 बच्चे हैं.
Agree. Then 8-hour thing you said, nobody can find 8 hours unless he is a single person. Because आपको जो human body है, उसको 8 घंटे सोना भी है, खाना पीना भी है, दुनिया भर का काम करना है. तो मोस्टली यू विल गेट मतलब 10 से 12 घंटे जो मिलते हैं आपको काम करने के. तो जो आपका 8 आवर का है वो अगर आप मतलब वर्ल्डली उसमें रहते हो तो यू कैन नेवर गेट दोज 8 आवर्स. बिल्कुल यू आर वेरी ट्रू. व्हेन यू वेंट इनटू द अदर पार्ट, देन यू विल हैव forget about 8 hours, you have all the time in the world, because आप जब मर्जी सो जाओ, जब मर्जी जाग जाओ, nobody is there. Other part is when your mother and father were going through all this and your wife went through divorce. So you are forgetting the other side also, because when you were going to your India, जैसे भी आप कर रहे हो, ठीक है? So you were not whatever you were supposed to do, you were not doing.
But that philosophy is that the other world is also he is creating his philosophy.
Yes,
No, you are distinguishing between other world and
What I am saying
this
is
world.
when you become single person, no worldly thing like Modi. मोदी ने क्या किया? पहले अपनी वाइफ को अलग किया, ठीक है? फिर उसके बाद में मोदी डे एवरी डे आई फॉलो एवरी डे इज ए न्यू डे फॉर. आप देख लो जैसे ही खत्म होता है उसका एक काम, he goes into the next thing without thinking about whatever he done yesterday. So you have to be a single person. Everybody, this is my thought process that our life is much tougher.
तो ठीक है.
than you
सवाल
must.
नहीं, तो चलिए ये भी ले लेते हैं. तो these are all valid points, right? क्योंकि इन्होंने भी यही सब सवाल पूछे थे. So there are spiritual masters who were householders. So one of them was Paramahansa Yogananda's guru's guru, which was Lahiri Mahasaya. Lahiri Mahasaya had a wife, had 2 children, had a job, worked in the Indian Railways till he was 60. What started happening, why he retired early, is that when he was going to work, they were also not doing work, they were asking him the same questions. That, Master, can you help us with this? Can you help us with that? When he was coming home, they were asking the same thing. So eventually he said, Lord, get my pension going so that I can now spend time with it. But he spent 60 years as a householder, ran a family, ran a life. जो आप कह रहे हो, तो ये गलत है. इस गलत फहमी में रहिए कि ये चीज नहीं हो सकती. This is not possible if you are a householder. Today, I have a child, I have a son who's 17. You know, as a young boy, right? He gets into a lot of trouble. Recently, he went into massive trouble. I'm less aware, I'm not allowed to share it. But there was a different way of looking at it, right? So what this brings, understanding, is that even your householding issues, even when your wife is shouting at you, you can still look at it differently. Because that inner calmness, that emotional, the juggernaut that you are in, that मुझे गुस्सा आ गया मेरी वाइफ भी बोलती है मैं ये कर दूँ मुझे वो करना है, that goes away. So you still lead your life normally. So tyag, as we say, is not to tyago your environment. The key here is to tyago your mind, not your environment. क्योंकि क्या हिमालय जाके सिंगल में बैठ जाओगे, you'll sit in the Himalayas single, but then you'll still be worried about I have a family at home, what's going on? Then what is the point? You've now taken more worries. Might as well do it here.
You have another question, I think.
Right.
Just a very long time. What he's saying is, I mean, the mind is attached. This is the entire problem.
Yeah, so the mind is the tempest, and that's essentially where that's the root of the problem for everything begins, right? So that's kind of a misimpression that, you have to be in a certain environment. I mean, it can help being in the Himalayas, nothing wrong with that, but, so anyone can go through their, whatever role you have in life, whether you're a swami or a householder and all that, there's no relation between that and what you're saying.
That's correct.
In any case, getting back to just a technical question. The non-dualism path, is that espoused mainly by, or if I get the name right, Swami Sarvaya? No, Vivekananda.
Swami Vivekananda.
No, Swami Sarvapriyananda.
Yeah, that's correct. I listened to him quite a bit. Sir
Right. Is he
head
the-
of the New York Advaita Ashram.
Okay.
He talks mostly about Advaita and
Right.
talks about non-dualism.
So, I know when we talk about non-duality or what does it mean to you?
Well, I was going to ask you, the non-duality, is that a big part of it? Are there two schools of Vedanta then? Or is that the
So in
one?
reality, there is no duality and non-duality.
Okay.
So reality is not differentiating. Reality is not saying there is dual or not dual. Reality is reality.
Right.
This again has been created. So non-dual, when we say non-dual, what it means is that the underlying essence of everything is one and the same. There is no Vedantic film.
Which is the
This is
Vedanta
all
way to
now.
understand it.
This is all now there and written to understand.
Right.
Right? But in reality, there is no duality or not.
Right. Only thing is that they do define some things, for example, the karmic cycle and all that, and related to your actions and
Most of this is all, once you transcend all this is all irrelevant.
Right.
Remember, everything has to go. Because
Right.
your starting point is self-realization.
Starting point is here. Yeah.
It's self-realization. Self-realization is not something new that will come. Because by the very law of nature, if something is coming to being, it must pass. That means that self-realization cannot come new, otherwise it has to end. So self-realization is your inner state of being. So if this process is a removal,
Right, that's
it's
the
not
first
just
step.
gaining anything. So everything has to go in order for you to remain aware of your own state.
Right.
So there's no dualism or non-dualism. People are different over the years.
It's a way to
Have
understand it.
written
Right.
different things so that they could explain to the people of that time.
I mean, although the soil rejoining, all that stuff, your actions and the soul rejoining, Atma rejoining Paramatma and then rejoining, all of that stuff.
All of that stuff is happening in the mind. It's really not happening in reality. This whole process of ignorance and being ignorant and forgetting about who you are and then finding any freedom from it, in the end is all happening in the realm of Maya, as we call it, on the mind.
Sure.
In reality, it's remaining the way it is. Not changing.
And then, Dr. Joshi, the way he described the illusion concept, do you agree with it literally like that? You touched upon it too. Because my understanding of illusion, illusion is always debated in Vedanta.
Very difficult,
right?
yeah.
I don't understand, I'll just be to be clear, I don't understand it as literally as you folks do. I think that's, if you don't mind me saying so, can be sort of a misnomer in the sense, the classic comparing it to the dream state and all that, okay?
Because in the dream state, if someone comes and pinches my arm, I'm gonna wake up. So we're all matter. Matter is energy. So everything that we see, it is matter. It's energy, it's matter. So I mean, it does exist. Now, I think isn't the larger point that it may exist, but we take everything so seriously, we don't realize we came from nothing, and will be in the end nothing. So the entire world, meaning, what it leads to is in the end, we started from nothingness, in the end is nothing. And in a way, which is hard for people to accept, but even to the point what a person achieved in their life or didn't achieve, or whatever great folks did, I mean, even that can be considered really insignificant and without any purpose in the end. So this is the trouble I think people have with because of how do they define
Because
it?
they're holding on to that individuality.
Right, and then
Because
that's
now
where
you
ego
attack.
comes in.
Yeah,
The
because
ego.
But problem here is the ego. Problem is that
You touch more on ego.
Yeah, right. So you have to understand, if we now talk about the principles of creation. So as I said, this is an outward projection, right? It's not a outward to inward, but an inward to outward projection. So beyond Satchitananda, as they call it, right? Everything else is an idea. What are the principles that the universe has been created on? Kal, time, desa, space, anu, atom, and the underlying vibration called Om, the sound. Because everything is on vibration based, right? But remember I said these are all play of ideas. These four then push out what we call Linga Sarya, right? Which is your astral and the astral body. Which then creates what? Ahamkar, Manas, the blind mind, Buddhi, the intellect, and Chitta, your feelings. Those then get pushed out into what we call your gunas. So basically your 15 ideas of 5 of locomotion, 5 of senses, and 5 of pranas. And then finally you've got the gunas, the 3 gunas on which everything is fluctuating, and then you have the 5 elements. But these are all ideas. As you go deeper and deeper and deeper, you find that these are non-existent. Which is why we use the word illusion. Now, as long as you are identified with the illusion, it is real. So, I put this example, when you go watch Mission Impossible, everything that's happening to Tom Cruise inside Mission Impossible is real for that character, for Ethan Hawke in Mission Impossible. But for the audience, it's a movie.
Essentially, everything converges to its original state in the end,
And that original state,
which was in a sense nothingness.
and that original state has never changed. It will never change.
So
It's
if
for
the screen remains, what guarantee is there that another movie won't be?
So first get to the screen. If you still have this question that there is something that you want to find beyond that, at least get to this.
I totally see enormous value in what you are.
So even 5% of this,
Yes.
if you reach, right, it will bring changes in your life. Once the life changes, now you get deeper. So for me also, the experience was not that I had it instant, not like Ramana. Ramana was one of the, sadhu mukti usually you don't get, and then we can come to your reincarnation thing. That then he got so quickly. Why? Because the belief is that he had already in his past lives, that particular soul or character had actually done what it had to do, so he just got it in an instant. Right? Even mukti also doesn't happen. Right? So there are 3-4 types of mukti. Sadhu mukti is instant. Jivan mukti is during your lifetime. Vidya mukti is at death. Right? But these are all again happening within the realm of the mind. So if you stay in this awareness, everything that you look upon from the awareness that is not changing, whatever is changing, it's got nothing to do with you.
I agree. I am able to realize that my problem is that now I experiencing something. Why this experience happened to me and who chose this experience is the question.
So that means it's still not yet fully there, because the questioner is still questioning. I'm not asking this why it's happening to me, why did it happen to me? Right? So till that questioner does not dissolve, these questions will keep happening. Correct.
I think, I would suggest that, we have discussed many of these questions that we have come across here. I think many of these questions, so the way we have actually organized the book is that we have an introduction to that chapter. There are like 10 chapters. And then I had many of these questions that we've been asking that Sri Ashish responded to. So I think these will resonate with you. So I think I will encourage you to kind of go through the book, and I think you will find some good answers. And regarding the Vedas, I think one of the Mahavakyas in Vedas is Aham Brahmasmi, right? I am the Brahma. So there also is a non-duality. There is no God and not me, and not somebody else. Aham Brahmasmi. I am that I am. Right? And the title of the book, I will explain a little bit more about the title of the book. I am Ashish to I am. What it means is that Ashish got dissolved. What remains is I am, that just the awareness. It's not Ashish anymore. And that means that it's because if you think about the truth or the reality, the real definition of truth and reality does not change. It never originated. It never ends. It's permanent. It is eternal. Anything that changes is not real. So my body is changing from the last 40 years. This is not real. Only thing that is real is constant. And that's who we are. And if you want to know the answer, then it's just the consciousness. Just awareness. No form, no name, no object, just the awareness. I think, yeah.
The main barrier between those two fields that permeates everything, obviously, the big elephant in the room is ego, right?
Yes.
So the concept of me is the basic thing. To the extent we don't even realize. For example, we have the lawn and the plants, and everything there is serving us how we view it. We don't look at it as we're just a being, and the plant is a being. How can we garland it around us? And, all this. So, this is.
Ego, I think, is the right word here. It's all ego.
Unrecognized. That's one way. Ego is essential.
Correct.
But
I think the difference between
then there's an aspect of ego that also is sort of necessary for most folks, because maybe you could shed some light on that.
Ashish walked the path. Where we know the path, we haven't walked. That's why we always keep talking about that.
So see, the only bridge, right? So from reality comes consciousness, right? That's your starting point. From consciousness comes the idea of the first, what we call aham-vritti, so the I part, first part. So that comes, so there is the ego. From ego generates the mind, because now what is the mind? It's a collection of thoughts, the memories, whatever it's called. It's the I-S, identified. From the mind comes the body, and from the body comes the world, right? So without this bridge, as you were saying, ego, you can't the senses don't function, right? So yes, it is the bridge. While this body is here, you got your senses, you have to do what you have to do. But where this teaching is, right, where the realization part is, which is what I was supposed to discuss today, how to live a conscious life, is to live with this consciousness that the ego in itself is an illusion. Yeah, right? So now what happens is, with this, what comes is non-attachment learning, which was what Adi Shankaracharya talked about. It was predominantly non-attachment. Discriminate what is real and unreal, and with each discrimination starts the non-attachment process. Non-attachment eventually non-attaches you to this barrier, which is easy. Eventually, that's the last thing that will go.
And then I think there's even no harm, I think it's conscious perception that you have to, folks that are realized on this, you have to let go of your sense organ, the sense. You can enjoy a nice cup of tea or a spicy.
Absolutely.
Okay,
Because
on the beach and all that, as long as you know.
you're not attached or entangled.
You're not attached or you're
That's
not,
it. That's what consciousness is. Right? So he actually, there's a Buddha saying which he always quotes. He says, before realization, chop wood, get water. After realization, chop wood, get water.
What's the first part?
Chop wood, get
Chop
water.
wood.
Chop wood, get water. After realization, chop wood, get water.
You got to do what you got to do.
Chop wood, get water. After realization, chop wood, get water. Only thing is now you look at life as a, really it's a joke. It's the biggest joke of all time. We're all tangled, we're all chasing something. Really. So this is educational and entertainment purpose only.
So you look at the entire thing and 8 billion people on the planet and growing. Okay, and what is the purpose of it all?
Entertainment purpose, you might go watch a movie.
It's literally like this, you have to make the entire drama.
But Ashish, if you let the senses fool you after realization by giving you pleasure,
So they don't. It doesn't happen.
No, you are allowing coffee
So
to
this-
taste good.
That's the difference, like the person realized will not let the senses fool them. Like I enjoy this tea, but I know it's temporary.
So today, the way to say is, before realization, you're slave to the mind. After realization, the mind is slave to you.
So does that mean if you take drugs over a month every day, can you be detached from that?
When you realize you get completely. Because you are now centered in this. Nothing affects you. Nothing. I've tested it. I do not take anything at face value. I've tested everything. After realization, straight tested it. This thing, this energy, this thing, nothing. It's like a mountain, like a chattan. Everything that comes on it. So the only thing I can tell you is,
can drag someone from
till you have not crossed. Yes, agreed. Both Ramanna and Buddha said. So Buddha basically explained it in 4 stages of jnana. The third one is called Bodhi. So he said even in the 4th stage of jnana, which is very, very impossible, he says there's still a flicker of light. That if you move to that light, it will again drag you back. So don't. Even if I come in your vision, don't listen to me. Keep going till you reach the end. And you will know the end. You keep asking me this. How do you know? Get there. Undeniably, you will know that this is the end. My brother keeps asking the same thing. We have this regular dining table, and now I've just said, I'm in silence.
The non-attachment doesn't limit a person's actions. That's
Non-attachment does not, because you're now non-attached to the action and to the outcome of the
you
action.
can still perform that action and you do.
Of course.
Hopefully the right actions. But it doesn't mean you have to be a monk.
So the whole notion of right and wrong also goes away, because that action is not being performed by the eye. So there is nothing related to right or wrong.
Right, although I mean, it's not-
All of this right or wrong has been created by societal and by individuals.
But it's usually not going to lead to wrong actions.
Usually it doesn't, but again, as I said, there is no right. That might be wrong for you, but it may not be right action per se at that moment.
I think the right and wrong is that still exists, right? I mean, you're not going to say, don't hit someone. I mean, it's not.
What happened in Mahabharata? Arjun said, I am not going to do this. I am not going to kill my cousins. The Lord said, go for it because you're not the one who's doing it. That's your dharma.
That was a responsibility. I mean, that's a little different thing. It was, action for something.
Same thing, right? Again, at that point, for somebody, for Arjun, that action was no go. Till the Lord said, go for it. I'm telling you, that is your dharma to do. You have to go, right? So in this case, one's duty may not somebody else. It may look as not duty. Right? From somebody outside, it may not be a duty. He may just say, this guy's going and doing the deed. So from your point of view, it's a wrong thing. From his point of view, he thinks he's doing the duty. Right? So it becomes matter of debate, but yes, 99.9% of the time, if I've not found myself, unless I've tried to test the thing, but it doesn't happen, this thing doesn't allow it. It doesn't shake.
Well, one bright spot is that, I can say that ego is the reason I'm here today, and I'll share that with you very quickly, is that when you were here the other day in the library yesterday, you walked by your flyer, and I thought I noticed my name on the flyer, so I went closer to look, and I said, that is my last name, also.
Oh.
I'm not a spiritual master. Then I took a picture, I put it in a couple of WhatsApp groups, and as a joke, I said, I hope you all are attending my talk today. And you kind of look similar.
Lovely.
Especially when you get a share.
Yeah.
So, it was me, I wanted to do it.
Lovely, lovely.
So ego helped me to be here because I saw my name.
Right.
Attached to my name, probably like anyone else might be.
Lovely.
To understand.
Yeah, lovely.
We have to vacate the room at
Oh,
4:30.
yes. So we need
So I think we can have some tea and samosas, and I think Sri Ashish will be here. We can have more questions, and I think if a group of people are interested, then I think I can host something at my home. Yeah, that will be actually, quite possible. We can have more in-depth discussions. So let's have some samosas.